So I think the facts matter. If we're going to talk about salt, or we're going to talk about the things that caused inflation, let's set the record straight. What caused inflation was a very long period of super low interest rates. What caused this period of inflation was incoherent energy policy coming out of the White House. What caused this inflation was a disrupted supply chain. What caused inflation was folks not going to work. And what also caused inflation was government overspending. And then the last, let's look at the candidates' records. In 6 years, my opponent has raised county spending by $1.5 billion. $1.5 billion. Let's not soapbox up here about who should reduce or reincorporate the SALT tax deduction. We're all for lower taxes, supposedly, right? But only a few of us have ever gotten a vote on a budget. My opponent has voted on budgets that have raised county spending by $1.54 billion in just 6 years. Don't get up here and say how you want the federal government to relieve the tax burden upon local residents when you voted to raise spending by $1.5 billion. If you care to keep people here on Long Island, if you care to keep people here in New York State, you should care enough that when you have a vote on a village, town, county budget, or if you're voting the state budget like the folks in the back are and might be, you should put your money where your mouth is and put your money where your vote is. And when it's come time to craft a budget, and when you have discretion over things, you should reduce spending. When I was a village trustee, I was a budget officer for 4 years. I cut my own pay by 20%. I didn't take health care benefits. I cut discretionary spending by 25%. That's what one does if they truly want to help solve the issue that's most plaguing most Long Islanders, and that's the affordability. That's what I'll do in Washington as well. I do think there was room for indexing. We have a tremendously high cost of living here on Long Island. I do think there should be some indexing for high cost of living states like this. From a federal government perspective, Long Islanders, we get screwed, New Yorkers, we get screwed. For every dollar we send to Washington, we get a mere 93 cents back. That's the 5th worst return on investment of any state in the union. Some states that are sending $1 to Washington are getting $1.50 and $2 back. One of the ways that we can make that better is by having indexing within our tax code. We can also get more money for infrastructure here. If you've driven on the roads recently, the roads need repair as well. The federal government plays a role, especially in our interstate highway system. Members of Congress should work across the aisle from the New York delegation, from the Long Island delegation, to bring that money home. But as far as staffing the IRS to a point, I know that the administration is proposing that we have 87,000 more IRS agents. I'm against that. My opponent on Twitter has said that she supports that so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which would put those 87,000 agents looking more and more into your lives. Let's be clear, I'm not in favor of that. If the federal government wants to hire more folks, let's put them at the border and secure our border. First bill we should put on the president's desk is an American energy independence bill to ensure that we drill on federal land, we don't pay our companies tax. We have 43.8 billion barrels of proven oil reserves beneath our feet in the southern tier of this state. We have tons of natural gas that can be safely extracted. It's going to come out of the ground somewhere, folks. And if we don't get it here, it's going to come out unsafely in places like Russia and Venezuela and elsewhere.